Mystics, magics, witchery, and sorcery. The sort of things you might find in a fantasy book, but believe it or not, may have very well once existed in our world. In fact, some might say the magic is still there now, practiced in secret hush-hush religious groups and various occultist assemblies. In this video, I'll aim to talk about a legend from Charleston, South Carolina that many may not be aware of. He was said to have been active in the late 1800s and would go under the name John Domingo, aka the Black Constable. John Domingo was said to be a hoodoo man, one who practices the art of hoodoo, though not to be confused with voodoo. You could consider it to be a more spiritual system composed of African American, Native American, and European folklore, whereby practitioners of hoodoo dabble in the gathering of roots and herbs for which they use to conjure good fortune, romance, wealth, security, or even vengeance. Where John Domingo obtained his moniker as the Black Constable cannot be said for certain, though some believe that this came about due to him being something of a vigilante in South Carolina. Others have suggested that Domingo was something of a supernatural detective, one who was protecting the city of Charleston from a surge of evil entities that were invading from a dark world. Basically, the entire plot for Constantine. Some of Domingo's features include the wearing of a silver ring that was in the shape of a serpent. Domingo would have you believe that this ring was forged deep in the Congo River, blessed by shamans and mystics, allowing him to command spirits. Others have indicated that this was the source of Domingo's power. Some tales have it that Domingo could make love potions and could make a man or woman become beautiful. Supposedly, many would flock to Domingo to receive the blessings of his mojo bags, which in the practice of hoodoo is a small bag containing certain herbs and ingredients that were said to bring luck, money, and self-esteem. People were also said to frequent Domingo for his jackballs. Jackballs were essentially mojo bags, but instead of a bag, the contents were wrapped in wax and formed into the shape of a ball before being attached with string. The user would then use the jackball kind of like a pendulum, like we're used to seeing in traditional hypnotism, by swinging the ball left and right on the string until the ball rocks back and forth on its own. Another tale has it that sailors and fishermen would visit Domingo to receive his blessings, as he could control the wind and therefore essentially dictate and guide their course across the waves. I suppose Domingo is most prominently known, if at all, for his necromancy and the actual raising of the dead to do his bidding, though believe it or not, no one ever saw him do this. Still, some have said that Domingo, in his eternal wisdom, would visit graveyards at midnight and collect dirt from the graves for use in his concoctions. It was said towards the end of his life that those who frequented his house in search of mojo bags and jackballs were soon to shy away. This is because of the supposed human-shaped shadows that lingered about his house, which were believed to be the souls of the dead in which Domingo had summoned. Domingo would actually become quite feared in his neighbourhood, where even the police force and white militant groups who were more active at the time would give him a wide berth. Considering he was a black man in a time where slavery had only recently been abolished and prejudices against black people were still at an all-time high, this is quite remarkable if it is indeed true. But if you thought that John Domingo's life couldn't be any more absurd, then wait until you hear about his death. In his regular supernatural constable detective role, Domingo would find himself challenged by two ordinary thieves. Some have said that he had caught them in his household, or perhaps trying to pickpocket his magical serpent ring. Either way, Domingo wasn't about to let such a thing slide. He grabbed hold of both thieves and was able to subdue them, though whilst holding them in each hand, he would go on to make the comment, "I am like Jesus, with a thief on each side." However, he would go a step further and say, "The only difference is that I am more powerful than Jesus." At this moment, witnesses to the action would see Domingo begin to foam at the mouth. The thieves would escape as Domingo began to levitate, clawing at his throat as if he was choking. But just as quickly as it all happened, Domingo was said to be thrown to the ground, where he was pronounced dead. But the strange activity didn't stop with Domingo's death. Supposedly, when the authorities were called to investigate the crime scene, Domingo's body would actually age drastically and would appear to be far older by the time the police were on the scene. To make matters even stranger, Domingo's body would go through a further change, where it would eventually become nothing more than an empty husk. That would wrap up most of Domingo's activity as the necromancing supernatural detective who sold mojo bags and jackballs. But residents of Charleston were said to still see his ghost lingering about up until his house was demolished and he was lost to history. But here's the part where you tell me what you thought about John Domingo and whether you can shed some light on this elusive tale. If you've enjoyed today's video, then don't forget to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Until the next time, guys.